I am Yumma Mudra, and I am going to offer a serial of videos alone and also with other people in English about Danza Duende Network. We want to create a structure of explanations about the philosophic and also about technical details of this project and of exercises, and regarding also many people who are part of the network and who are exploring this work on their own right. So I really invite all people to join in, maybe because you are interested to know about this work, maybe because you believe you could offer something to make this structure become more and more presentable and more available, because this is completely based on benevolent work, benevolent offerings, because we believe that it is very necessary nowadays to create means for people to enter deeply into their richness, their personal richness. And we also believe that working with your health, with the means of body, speech and mind, and creating more and more network of people who are able to join together with a motivation which is free from gain and free from fear of losing money or having more money, but really completely concentrated on the love for art and the love also for human qualities of taking care of the world, of taking care of life, of taking care of ourselves as being protectors of all beings, instead of maybe abusing from resources and abusing from animals, exactly the opposite. So this project has been created by myself in 2004. Since a few years I am in a permanent half retreat, so I'm mostly retired, but also communicating with the teachers and all the people that have been making this network exist. So now we are doing it in English, because maybe English is the language that more people can understand and share. But we will translate slowly all the videos, and then we will create also paperwork, books, and different materials that will come from this purpose of generating a structure of explanations by little videos on YouTube. So please come on YouTube to see these videos. It is Raji Mudra, and it is called #Masterclass Yumma. See you there. I hope you have a good, wonderful day. Hello, this is Yumma Mudra. This podcast is part of the Masterclass Yumma Danza Duende Network, the section B, and it's number 1 of the section B. So I am now going to explain an exercise that I have created when I was teaching the Danza Duende project in the school. So this exercise was called the angels who are thieves of movements. So it's a little bit playful, because the idea as a whole is in the same time to get into a very deep process of creative composition of movements that could mix the spontaneity, so something you do naturally from out of your pleasure or feeling of moving, of dancing, but that would be in the same time mixed up with a process of understanding the composition of the movements you do and how you can use them in a lot of different ways. It goes from a lonely person who creates his or her own sequence of movements, and it goes towards slowly 2 persons sharing, and then 4, and then it gets at a point that everybody is sharing the movements, and we don't really actually know at some point where it comes from. It starts to be like if everybody was sharing naturally the language, the vocabulary that each person has created. Of course, if you do it for a short time, it's very light, it's playful, and sometimes it can become extremely magical, but nobody really understands exactly what's going on. But if you do it on a professional level, you can lead this exercise on a long-term process, like in a residency, to become the basics for a creation. So, of course, there's a lot of possibilities, so I'm only going to explain a structure, and maybe sometimes I can mention that you could do this or that, even if you're not going to do it, if it's a short session. But I will not get into all the details, because that should be in the process of a real long workshop of masterclasses. So why is it thieves and angels? It's because thieves is because you are taking movements from somebody else, and somebody else is taking movements from you. So it is a little bit like when you learn languages, that you listen to somebody saying a word and you repeat that word because you want to learn that language. And it's also what do the children. When they see people do something, or when they hear people saying something, they want to learn, so they repeat. Exactly the same also animals do when they are small, and they are like, imagine you had a cat that is a small cat, a kitten, and doesn't have his parents or his mother. So that kitten is going to imitate movements of another animal, for example. That's just an example, but all in all creation, the nature, you can see this process of how the smallest, youngest creature is learning, and learning by repetition and imitation. So in this case, we can create a movement. We can also sculpt the movement. So the sculpture of the movement is that this movement will be done in different consistency of space. A space could be thicker, or space could be lighter. You could do it in different rhythm. You can also invert it. You can also mix one movement that you did naturally with the inversion of the movement, or you could cut in pieces part of this if you really want to get into a long workshop and to work on it. And then, of course, in that case, the whole process is going to become much more professional. But if you don't want to make it too difficult, you just let very natural and simple movements being repeated. A little bit like if I would sing a song to you and I would say, I'm singing a song, I'm singing a song, I'm singing a song. I would say song, song, song. So I'm doing something really simple naturally, and then I'm going to work on it, maybe to make it a little bit better, or maybe because I have inspiration to make it longer. So of course with the body, of course you can have part of these movements that each person is going to do always that one the same, and imagine that person created 5 movements, and sequentially little things, not big things, like I sing a song as a little just a little sentence, not too big, so that the memory doesn't make you too tired. That you can slowly let your memory become more able to remember naturally without a big effort. So in the beginning, you just do little sequences, but the little sequences can come together. Like if you have 5 ones, you could bring them together, like with movements that you do just completely free. Or maybe you can also do these movements and have pauses, which is also very interesting, because sometimes people move, but they never stop, which is not very enhancing the quality. Like if I would talk and I would never ever stop talking. It's very interesting when you talk to have different tones and different rhythms, and also the same thing for movement. But you can put together moments that you don't really control too much with moments that you really learned how to control your own thing. So that's the beginning. And why did I said thieves? Because we take movements from each other. But why did I say angel? It's because when you did start to take movements from each other, which is going to be the second step, they're going to be a process that people become invisible. So it's a game, of course. So they imagine they're invisible. So I'm going to explain further. I'm just giving you an idea of the title of the exercise. So why is it angels? It's because they are invisible and they have this quality of magic, of goodwill, of good presence, but they're invisible. So they're thieves in the same time, because it's an idea to joke with the fact that the dance cannot be copyrighted, which I find absolutely fantastic, which means that there's no reason not to copyright anything natural at all. And the dance is resistant to it, which is quite wonderful. So like songs, like all these traditional songs we have from long centuries, people just created the songs and gave them to generations, and there's no copyright on that. That's how we have all these wonderful traditional musics that are like universal property. It's like for the good of all of us. So how do you start this? You start by creating in the group, you start by creating a situation where people don't explain too much, let them step by step. So first they just dance on a music or two, or maybe you make them dance freely. Of course, you have to, heat them and prepare the people first, of course. Then you can be very creative. You can do a lot of different things in the midst of it. How you create that situation can have objects or can have forms on the ground, but you can also do it very simple, just the space as it is. Always you can make the basic exercise become a little bit more sophisticated. Just don't lose the roots of what you are experiencing, so that you really understand what you're doing and you understand how to work with the group, because you have to be very, very sensitive to what's going on in the group. And if you are, you will somehow feel what they are going to do before they do it, and you don't even need to tell them. So that is very important, that at one point you become able to, in the same time, direct, in the same time, follow people. Because they will probably do, if you really have the tune in of something special, especially magical between all of you, if you do have this connection and concentration and presence and generosity, they will end up getting into something that you saw before they did it, because you are completely in a total panoramic vision of what's going on. So you see the people, you see the space, you hear the music, and you have a full presence into also the different emotions and everything going on, and you're not judging. So this is what makes you completely able to be present in all of space, inside people and outside of people. This is what you do as a Danza Duende teacher. So you have to learn how to be available in the same time that you know what you're doing and you are really a director, you're really a teacher, but in the same time you're letting go and you're letting something come to you that you didn't expect, but that you do perceive a little bit before everybody. And one of the purpose of these exercises is that a few people in that group will maybe, because of how the exercises is directed, maybe some of them will start to have a sense of how this whole process is felt from yourself inside of you. It's felt in a relationship to everybody, and then there is also this ability that we do have in our brain to see the whole picture. In the same time we can see a little detail of that picture. So you would say like me, myself, I, myself and me, and in the same time us, and how this group is creating a mandala. How is this mandala going from chaos to order? Order is when it's very crystallized in harmony, and it starts to have a very clear sense of space and of rhythm. And chaos is when everybody is a little bit in different kinds of perceptions, but it does happen in the same time, all of it in the same time. So it becomes a little bit chaos. I don't know in English if it's chaos or chaos, excuse me. So when each person had the opportunity to dance freely, maybe you choose 2 or 3 music, so you check which one works better, or maybe you already know the one you want. Make it simple, not very complicated music. It's needed that it's more simple in the first time. But you can also let them experience different kinds of music and different kinds of quality of music, but you know the one you're going to work with is more simple. And then you propose to people to work on sequences, so they can imagine 2 sequences or 3. It depends on the people, if they're able to create more or if it's difficult for them. And as soon as they have at least 2 sequences, you let them experience these 2 sequences on the right, on the left, or maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower, or can they do it when they look at one wall? Can they do it when they look at the door, at the window? How do they feel when they look at the window? How do they feel when they look at the door? How do they feel if they breathe a little bit like this or like that? There's a lot of possibilities, and at that point, if you are going to have a lot of time with them, then you can get into this thing of creating composition, like I said at the beginning of the speech. Second step. So the second step is when they do have some material, like if they had a sentence or 2 or 3, you get them in couples. So the couple is getting into a very strong sense of imitation. I'm going to become this person. So this person in front of me, I'm not only learning her gesture, her vocabulary, I am becoming her or him, which means I'm taking the same form. I am, as much as possible, completely the same hair, the same smile, the same perfume, the same expression. And I have to really observe how this person is, like, for example, moving the hand, but it comes from the leg. Moving the leg, but it comes from the dynamic of how my movement was creating dynamic in space. So all these things are very interesting, because sometimes we really notice one thing, but we don't notice that this one thing comes from somewhere else. So this makes this student become much more able to learn. And in the same time, what's very interesting is that when you take somebody's form or somebody's body, you have you're developing a sense of intimacy in the feeling of what is another person's world. It's a little bit like if suddenly there's something inside of your brain, and it does exist, of course, the mirror cells, that makes you able to feel what she or he feels. And of course, when you are directing, you have to always be very careful. How do you put people together? How do they go along together, etc. And so one imitates one and takes the form. So that means that if you have, imagine you have Mary and you have Tiffany. Tiffany learns Mary and becomes a little bit the same as Mary. So she learns the 3 sentences. And then Mary is going to learn Tiffany's. And you have to also leave a little bit of breath and time between each one, so that, of course, you need to a little bit let go of what you did before you learn what the other did. You cannot help that there is going to be a little bit of mixed between movements, because that's how it is. And this is how you learn about how we are all the time creating things together, all beings on Earth. because there's not such a thing as me, myself, and I completely separated from everything else. So it's very, very deep learning that you don't really explain. You can explain later if people study with you a long time, but you don't need to explain it at the first sight, because you have to find out which people are more able to learn that and which are not yet ready for it. So because some people get a little bit confused, they don't have a sense of self that allows them to let go of self. And some people have so much a sense of self that they are not able to share easily. So on another hand, there is a pleasure that is going to create between these two people an attachment very quickly, and that attachment is also interesting to work with. So when the two persons start to, you look at them and you find suddenly that they have like a third person existing among them, like if they had a child. So that means that you start to see that when they're working together, something new is coming up. So that's when you're ready to make the couples have a mission. So this is when you let them work together, you're going to see that they're working together, that they're going along together. Usually, very often, if you have a good group, usually it's okay, they start to like it. And at one point, you also ask them to keep on working together, imitating each other, but they're not anymore, I imitate you, you imitate me. You're starting to let it be. So from these sequences, like if Tiffany had 2, imagine, and then Mary had 2, that means they have 4. But as they're doing it naturally, these 4 give birth to new movements. And so they have to go from a flow of being able to completely relax into creativity of composition, but they also come back sometimes to these vocabulary that are very precise. And then they can experience if she is doing something up, the other one is going down, or if she's quick, I'm going slow, or if she is looking, she's looking at the window, I'm going to also look at the window in the same time, or maybe I'm just going to do exactly the opposite. So don't have them always in front one of the other. They have to learn how to go apart from each other, but also what is it to be side to side, or front to front, or back to back, or maybe even one is looking at one part and one at the other, they don't even see each other, things like that. So then the next, I told you, I'm not going to explain everything, I'm just going to give the basics, but you understand this can be very creative, because you as a teacher, you're going to find out that suddenly maybe you could do something that was not actually in the exercise, that could be part of the exercise, because of that space, time, and people. Because each time it's unique. It's never something you do exactly the same. But it does have a beginning and an end that is usually the same. So when these people, you see, they start to be able to have fun and to also get separated one from the other and experience different distances or different qualities of the same sequences, with also freedom. So you bring in together freedom and discipline. It's mixed together. So you have the virtue coming. The virtue is that sense of their communication being a creation of something that makes them feel connection. You know, what I mean is that they feel something that makes them get in love, and it's very simple. It doesn't have to be passion. It could happen sometimes they really get into passion, sometimes they get into drama, but anyway, there is a sense of quality of a deep communication coming from one to one. Okay, so when you see this is happening, you start explaining to them that they're going to be working in the space. So of course, when they start to get apart or get back together, they're not always the two together. Sometimes one is at one point of the space and the other one is at the other point of the space. So you're going to have people in between them, because everybody is doing that. So at that point, you look at them and you choose very discreetly who is going to become the first couple of angels. What does that mean? That means that this couple of angels, they are going to become invisible. And they go one, so it's a couple, huh? So one goes to steal movements from another couple, and the other one goes to steal movements from another couple. And then times to times they come back to share. So like if Tiffany had 4 movements, she had Mary's and Tiffany's movement, she's going to come back with more. And she's going to share this. So it means that Tiffany and Mary, they're going to have their own 4 movements plus what they went to steal. And so they're going to work on the movements they went to steal from other people, like thieves. But as you go along, you're going to tell another couple that they are thieves, angel that are thieves. And so slowly, step by step, when you see that 2 people are really in a very good relation, let them go a little bit further into that 2 persons only working together. Because they're going to become very good people to be stolen. And also for them it's interesting to get a little bit more into it. But if you see they're getting very attached, it's starting to become sticky, tell them to become angels. And so they relax a little bit, the stickiness between of them. And what's going to happen slowly is that the thieves, angels, invisible, start to imitate somebody who is imitating somebody else. And at one point, everybody becomes invisible and everybody becomes an angel. And so you don't know anymore who is imitating who, and you don't know anymore. And that movement you took from, imagine you took it from, let's say another name, Suzanne. You don't know that Suzanne actually took it from, for example, Simon, okay? So actually it's Simon's movement, but you think it's Suzanne's, and it doesn't really matter that much at that point, okay? And so this creates a magic, and that magic that is being created, you really are aware because you are directing the orchestra, and you can make them, like you talk to them, they have to understand and learn how to listen to you and not stop. So they don't look at you, they don't stop what they're doing. They need to listen to you and in the same time keep on dancing whatever it is that is happening. So at one point you start to tell them to release a little bit the couple. It means that they could be as a couple, but they could also connect to another couple, and it could become 4. It could become 6. It could become 1 and another of 4. So it starts to be a little bit free. And at that point, it depends on you, the teacher, how to direct it, because it depends on how they are reacting, okay? And then if you feel now they're ready, because they start to get warmed up emotionally, and there's also a sense of vocabulary, and there is an intelligence going on with space and communication and music and rhythm, maybe you let them keep on going again and again and again without directing anymore. That they can go from that freedom, that couple, that loneliness, or being into a group. Sometimes you have the whole group starting to do the same thing, okay? So this is how you get to a point where everybody is dancing, and it's an amazing exercise, because if you direct it well, you get to a point where you can look at them and you really, you're seeing something that really, sometimes it really looks like a hell of a choreographic that was rehearsed, and that people learned it, and actually you only took 3 hours to do it, okay? So then when it's finished, depending on how the thing is going on, let them a little bit relax. Maybe they like to embrace and kiss, and then you can let them a little bit relax and breathe in silence. Let them have time to absorb the energy. When there's a little bit of relaxation, they can go to have a little bit of water or go to the bathroom, something like that. And then afterwards, if they like, you can create space for them to talk a little bit and then the circle, if everybody can talk about it. If you can actually film the whole process, it's really nice, because you could take out of what you did parts of the movie and then work with these parts of the movie in order to work on a creation. Or maybe just for the people, if you're not working on a creation, it could be only a tool for them to see what they have been doing and to work with what they have been doing. Of course, if you are a Danza Duende teacher, you're going to be very careful that when they work on themselves from the images of what they are doing, and they learn how to be, in the same time, critical in the good sense of improving their dance, so they can be critical of themselves, but absolutely not destructive of their selves, because the critic should be a positive critic. So this is also something you really have to help the people to get into this ability. Because even if people don't say so, they feel a mix of passion, love, attraction, admiration, and also jealousies, pride, irritations, all of these things. It's mixed, completely mixed. So that makes it very attractive, but in the same time, it is scary. So you are here in this case in charge of working with all of this. This is why you did your training in Danza Duende. And this exercise can be done with people that trained in absolutely nothing at all. Any person could do that. Children can do it, but professional dancers and even actors and musicians can do that. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Tout le monde est prêt?
4.